Latas.
The healthcare system is obviously in trouble. There's about 70% of our population where it's kind of broke. There's about 10% of our population where it's okay. And then there's 15% of our population where it's absolutely a disaster. 15% of our population, closing in on 50 million people now, have no insurance at all. But this bill that we end up having to pay because they still will need medical treatment cost us about $100 billion a year. It's because they wait so long until they show up to the hospitals. For me, my health insurance isn't broke. I'm part of 4% of our population right now that actually has a universal single-payer plan. It's called military retirement. I'm insured by TRICARE. It costs me $460 a year. And the equivalent plan in the private and the company sectors is worth $12,000 a year. This is something that we, as Americans, ought to try to get. It's affordable, maybe not at $500 per person. The average might be a little bit higher, but everybody in this country should be insured, and it's affordable. Because that $100 billion that we currently pay the uninsured, once you add that in there, if you raise the premium cost, it's affordable for all Americans. And that's what we're looking at. And you can go to my website at jefflatas.com. You can see our plan, how we address this in a universal single payer for all Americans. Now, I will tell you, if I was one of those 15%, one of those 46 million people that didn't have insurance, it definitely would be broke. My son experienced leukemia in between his junior and senior year. It's a very aggressive form of leukemia. If I would have waited 2 or 3 days later to take him to the hospital, his chances of survival would have been very small. That's happening to these 46 million Americans right now. My son had a relapse of leukemia when he was serving his country in Iraq just a year ago. If he didn't have this insurance that I currently have, because he's a reservist, he falls under TRICARE, he would have ended up in a military situation, probably in Texas. But because of TRICARE, he was able to get his treatment right here at the university. Outstanding treatment. This insurance policy is unbelievably good. Every American has the right to have that kind of insurance.
Thank you. One of the fun things that Claudia and I, my wife, did for fun to relieve some stress from the campaign trail is to go watch An Inconvenient Truth. Maybe some of you have watched it. I recommend that you spend time watching that movie by Al Gore. He talks about global warming. And you know what? The science is compelling. The president is not listening, however, and neither is this Republican-led Congress. Friends, look, Brazil made a simple plan, 5 years for energy independence. And we are America. We can do it in 5 years. The president is talking about a 20-year plan. You know, that strikes me as amazing. So what we have to do is go to Congress and, based on very firm principles, have and fight for a real energy policy. At the very top of that is to return the United States as a signatory to the Kyoto Accords. President Clinton worked, he worked very, very hard to move the accord forward, only to have this administration get out of it within 3 months after they took office. And it's heading us down the wrong path. We all know it. All the scientists in our nation know it. But it's a political question, frankly, and it's a question of political will. And we do have destabilization around the world based on the commodity called oil. Today, we have record oil prices. Boy, I think the all-time high was approximating $78 per barrel. And, you know, this is going to continue unless we enact a strong, real energy policy. So I am in favor of strong research and development for alternative sources. That doesn't take 5 years. It doesn't take 20 years. It should take us less than that. We can do it because this nation and our future depends on it.
A final question for you.
This nation has seen something that we have never seen before in our history. The largest transfer of wealth ever that this country's ever seen. Currently, the top 1% of our wealth holders own 30% of the nation's wealth. And they're trying ever harder to gain more and more of our wealth. The estate tax was brought up just over about a month ago now. The estate tax and eliminating that would only affect a little more than 8,000 people in this country. The revenue that's generated by the current estate tax is almost $750 billion. This is an amazing amount of revenue. But yet this administration and our current Senate and Congress want to give that away. Some argue that this money's already been taxed. I dare say it had been taxed as much as most people think. The wealthiest people in this country pay very little taxes. That money is not being taxed. It gets into the hands of these wealth holders. It does not get invested back into this country. It ends up being invested in China and India, and hence our investment in this country is lacking. Our economy is in decline. Our poverty level is growing, and yet that top 1% of our wealth holders still want more from us. We probably do need to change our tax laws, but let me tell you, we can solve our current deficit problem by saving. We spend $160 billion a year in Iraq alone. Our interest payment for the debt that this country currently owes to other countries like China and Saudi Arabia is $400 billion a year. It equals the military, if you don't include the supplementals that we keep adding into the military to pay for this war in tune of about $120 billion these days. We can save by cutting out the war, and we can save by cutting court spending, and my time's up. Well, I have to say, Alex, you know, when I win this election, with your blue light special, you can sell Francine's pins. Anyway, I do appreciate everybody coming out tonight, and I do want to say that this is a very important election. When it comes to the rights of the people, we have lost a lot of that. We have lost power to corporations. Multinational corporations now write the legislation that we all have to be ruled by. It's time for our country to take that back and put it in the hands of the people. That's what this campaign's about. It's about empowering the people. Now, don't be fooled when we're talking about being elected. It's 100% political power. That's the power I want. I want that power, but unlike other congressmen that want to go up to the Hill, they want to give that power to the Walmarts. They want to give that power to developers. They want to give that power to ExxonMobil. They want to give that power to Merck and Pfizer. I want to give the power to you. That's who I want to give the power back to, because that's what it's about. It's about the American dream, something that I've had the opportunity to live. My kids have less of that opportunity now. Let me tell you, this is a very important battle, and it is a battle. I have been in battle. I have led men and women in battle, and this is just as important. The responsibility that this seat holds is as important as going to battle in combat. I've been there. I know what it's like. I've led, and it's time that we put real leadership in Washington that empowers you, the people, the way this Constitution was designed to be. That's what this campaign's about. That's what I want, and I want to empower you. Thank you very much.